They thought I left my career because I couldn't handle it. They didn't know the real reason. And when the truth finally surfaced, it wasn't me who looked lost, it was them. You ever feel like you're drowning in fluorescent light? That was me. Sitting in a beige conference room on a Tuesday morning, third cup of bitter office coffee in hand, watching a slideshow about quarterly metrics that had absolutely nothing to do with my actual life. My manager was droning on about Q4 optimization while I stared at a pie chart like it had personally betrayed me. That was the exact moment I decided I was done. Not just with the meeting, but with the whole damn thing. The suits, the titles, the Monday stand-ups, the fake birthday cards everyone signed with best wishes, like they gave a damn. I had spent 10 years climbing some invisible ladder, and for what? So I could wear uncomfortable shoes, smile at people who talked behind my back, and ask for permission to take a vacation I paid for myself? I was 34 years old, working a steady job at an insurance firm in Indianapolis. Safe job, decent salary, health benefits, 401k, pizza on Fridays. People told me I was lucky, but I felt like I was slowly disappearing. I used to stay up late sketching designs for this outdoor gear brand I dreamed of building. Nothing big, just something simple, quality-made. The kind of stuff you wish existed when you're out on a trail and everything at REI costs half a mortgage. I even had a name for it, Quiet Peak. But somewhere along the way, those sketches turned into folder tabs buried behind budget spreadsheets. I stopped designing and started declining. So that Tuesday morning, somewhere between bullet point 5 and 6 on a slide about synergy targets, I opened a blank document and typed 4 words. I am resigning effective. The rest filled itself in. I did not ask for a leave. I did not stall. I turned it in that afternoon, thanked them for the opportunity, cleared my desk, and walked out into the parking lot feeling more terrified than I ever had in my life. No plan, no backup, just a gut full of nerves and this stubborn voice in my head saying, build something real, or die trying. I figured I had savings for maybe 6 months if I lived cheap. I moved into a studio apartment above a mechanic shop on the edge of town, sold my secondhand sedan, and bought a used bike. Every day, I woke up early, made coffee that tasted like mud, and started building Quiet Peak from my living room floor. No investors, no hype, just me, some fabric samples, and a website I barely knew how to run. And then something happened that I never saw coming. That first month was brutal. I thought quitting the job would feel like freedom, but it hit more like freefall. The silence was deafening. No pings from Slack, no calendar invites, no coworkers asking if I had a second to chat. Just the hum of my tiny fridge and the occasional dog barking from the alley. I had no clue what I was doing. I watched YouTube tutorials on how to sew gear-grade materials. I ordered cheap rolls of nylon and canvas online. I borrowed my aunt's ancient sewing machine that rattled like a lawnmower. My hands cramped from pinning and repinning the same damn strap until it sat right. The stitches were ugly. My first backpack looked like it had been chewed on, but it was mine. Every dollar I had left, I tracked like it was oxygen. Rent, groceries, supplies. Each week, I cut back further. I stopped drinking coffee out. Cut my own hair. One week, I lived on rice, eggs, and frozen peas just so I could afford another roll of webbing for shoulder straps. I was lonely, too. My friends from the office checked in at first. How's the little project going? They'd ask, with that half-curious, half-condescending tone. I smiled, said it was going well, and changed the subject. But as the months passed, the text slowed, then stopped. They moved on. Happy hours without me. Promotions posted online with captions like, hard work pays off. And maybe it did, just not for people like me. Still, there were tiny moments that kept me going. Like when I got my first order from someone I did not know. A guy in Colorado bought one of my early packs on Etsy and left a 5-star review. Said it held up great on a weekend hike and that he loved how simple and rugged it felt. I must have read that review 20 times. It was not much, but it was something. I kept my head down, worked late, shipped orders in reused Amazon boxes with handwritten thank you notes because I could not afford custom packaging. Slowly, my designs got better. My site started getting traffic from Reddit threads and trail forums. A few orders turned into a dozen, then more. I was still scraping by, but something was shifting. Then one night, about 5 months in, I was working on a batch of gear when I got a DM on Instagram from someone I had not heard from in years. Hey man, just saw your profile. Didn't know you were doing this full time. Thought you'd be VP by now. You good? It was a guy from my old office. And right then, I realized the next part of this journey was going to be harder than just building the business. It started slow, just little comments from people I used to work with. Old colleagues popping up in my messages or catching me around town, talking like I had fallen off some imaginary cliff. One guy from accounting saw me at the farmer's market with a tote full of nylon scraps and said, "Man, I didn't know you were between jobs." I told him I was not. I was building something. He nodded with that awkward half-smile people give when they do not believe you, but do not want to argue. Another time, I ran into my old manager at a gas station. He was wearing a blazer even on a Saturday, hair perfect, car spotless. He asked, "Still working on your project?" Like it was a lemonade stand. I said, "Yeah, Quiet Peak's coming along." He looked confused, like he had never even registered the name. "You know," he said, "if you ever want to get back in, let me know. We've got openings again." Like that was a lifeline I was lucky to be offered. What hit hardest, though, was how they all framed it. Polite, passive-aggressive concern. Like I had lost my way. Like I had something to prove to them. One guy even said, "You were on track to make director before 40. You just needed to hang in there." Hang in there. Like I was supposed to suffer until a title made it all worth it. They did not understand. Or maybe they did not want to. They saw my worn hoodie and beat-up boots, not knowing I had built something real with my own hands. They saw no office, no staff, no company LinkedIn profile to show off. Just me and a backpack slung over one shoulder. What they missed was the part where I woke up every day without dread. The part where I worked harder than I ever did at a desk job, but every hour meant something. No more pretending. No more climbing someone else's ladder. They kept saying, "Let me know if you need help getting back on track." Back on track. I was finally on track. My track. Still, it stung sometimes. The way they looked at me like I had given up, when the truth was, I had finally stopped giving in. But I let them talk. Because deep down, I had a secret they did not know, and I was not ready to reveal it just yet. Especially not after what happened the following week. The twist came on a Tuesday, exactly 6 months after I quit. I was biking home from the post office, backpack full of outgoing orders, when I spotted a flyer taped to a light pole near the old downtown strip. It was a pop-up outdoor market, 2 weekends away, local makers, independent brands, small batch goods. I skidded to a stop. Right there on the flyer was a line that said, "Gear up with Indiana's best handmade camping and outdoor equipment." Something clicked. I took a photo, went home, and filled out the vendor application that same night. Paid the booth fee with what little I had left in my checking account. I figured even if I only sold a handful of packs, it would be worth it just to meet some real people. 2 weeks later, I was there. Booth number 23. No fancy setup. Just a fold-out table, a rack of hand-sewn backpacks, and a crooked cardboard sign that read Quiet Peak. Built by hand. Meant to last. I expected to stand around all day watching people pass me by. Maybe sell 1 or 2 things. Smile awkwardly. Try to network with strangers who would forget my name in 5 minutes. That is not what happened. The first customer came 15 minutes after the market opened. A young couple, hiking boots caked with real dirt, not just for show. They liked the simplicity, said it reminded them of old-school Patagonia before it went mainstream. They each bought a pack on the spot. Then came a guy who ran a gear blog. Asked if he could feature me. Took photos. Asked for a short interview. Then came a guy in mirrored sunglasses who handed me his card and said he owned a boutique camping store out west. Said he liked what I was doing. Said he wanted to talk about wholesale. By noon, I had sold out of everything. I just stood there, stunned. People were asking if I had a wait list, if I shipped out of state, if I had an Instagram. One guy came back just to shake my hand and tell me, "Whatever you are doing, keep doing it." I walked home that night with an empty gear rack and a full heart. Something had shifted. Something real. But the high did not last. Because that same night, as I was sitting on the floor with takeout and sketching new designs, I got a call from a number I had not seen in over a year. It was not a friend, not a coworker. It was family, and they were not calling to congratulate me. It was my sister, Emily. We had not spoken in almost a year and a half. Not after the last blow-up, when I told her I was done loaning out money for emergencies that somehow always looked like beach trips and new phones. I stared at the screen as it rang. Could have let it go to voicemail. Probably should have. But I answered. Her voice was cheery, too cheery. The kind of sweet that comes right before a favor. I heard you started a little business, she said, like I was selling lemonade on the sidewalk. Mom mentioned it. Sounds like you're doing okay now. I said nothing. Then came the pause, and the sigh, and the drop. Their roof was leaking. Again. Mom's disability check had not come through yet. Emily's boyfriend was between jobs, just temporarily. They were short on bills. Could I help? Just this once. It hit me hard. Not the ask. I was used to the ask. It was the tone. That subtle mix of pity and expectation. Like I had finally crawled out of whatever hole they thought I had dug for myself. And now that I was breathing again, I could go right back to carrying the weight they had dropped years ago. I told her I could not help this time. Silence on the line. Then she laughed. I mean, come on, you're doing fine now, right? Selling those little bags or whatever. Little bags. All the quiet victories, the sleepless nights, the blistered hands. That was how it sounded in her mouth. Like a fluke. Like a hobby. Like I had lucked into something temporary. I almost told her how I had sold out at the market. How a store wanted to stock my gear. How I was finally scraping together enough to maybe move out of the studio soon. But I stopped myself. Instead, I said, I hope things work out for you, and hung up. 15 minutes later, I got a text. Wow, you've changed. She was right. I had. But I knew what came next. When word got around that I had not just survived, but maybe even thrived, it would spread fast. Not with pride. Not with support. With resentment. And it did not take long before someone else from my past showed up, this time, in person. And they were not coming to shop. It was Saturday afternoon, and I was elbow deep in fabric scraps, trying to fix a zipper that kept snagging, when I heard a knock on the door. Not many people knocked on my door anymore. I opened it, half expecting a neighbor or a delivery, maybe someone trying to sell me cable. But instead, there he was. Jake Mason. Used to be my team lead back at the firm. The same guy who once praised my grind ethic, while casually taking credit for my work and performance reviews. He looked different now. Bulkier. Flashier watch. Same stiff smile. Hey, man, he said like we were old college buddies. Heard you left the industry. Thought I'd swing by, check in. I just stared at him. How did you know where I lived? Oh, your old address was still in the firm's database. Needed a little digging. But hey, we're in analytics, right? I stepped aside out of politeness, but something about him made the air feel heavier. He looked around the place like he was walking through a garage sale. So this is where the magic happens, huh? He chuckled, tapping one of my bags on the table. Not bad. Kind of rustic. Like humble beginnings. I did not say anything. Just waited for him to get to the point. And he did. Turns out the company was restructuring, downsizing, rebranding, all the buzzword chaos. They were looking to diversify leadership. And my name had come up in a meeting. They wanted to offer me a job. More pay. Fancy title. A chance to step back into real growth, as Jake put it. He leaned in and said, we all knew you had potential. You just got lost for a while. Lost. I looked at my workshop. My shipping corner. My gear orders waiting to be packed. The wall where I pinned every 5-star review. I told him I appreciated the visit, but I was not interested. That smile of his cracked a little. He stood up, brushing lint off his slacks. You sure, man? You don't want to waste too many years playing pretend out here. This looks fine, but come on. You were on track for real success. Real success. I walked him to the door and opened it. As he stepped outside, he turned and said, you know people talk, right? They think you cracked. Gave up. Walked away from everything you built. Just saying. I closed the door behind him before I could say something I would regret. He was not wrong. People did talk. But what none of them understood, what they never even bothered to ask, was what I had actually built. And just a few days later, the moment came that would finally make it all undeniable. Not through anything I said, but because of what someone else did, without even knowing it. 3 days after Jake's visit, I got tagged in a photo on social media. It was not from anyone I knew, just some guy named Trevor. Trail runner. Backpacking junkie. Lived out west, judging by the mountains behind him in the post. He was crouched down on a cliff's edge at sunrise, holding up a Quiet Peak pack like it was a trophy. The caption read, best pack I've owned. Handmade by some dude in Indiana. No branding, no fluff, just built right. And in the comments, it blew up. People asking where he got it. One guy said he had seen the same bag in Utah on a trail last month. Another said he heard about Quiet Peak from a Reddit gear thread. A woman chimed in asking if we made smaller day packs. I just sat there in my workshop, staring at the screen like it had grown wings. By the end of the day, I had more orders than I could fulfill. I spent that night answering messages, updating my site, and making a waitlist form, something I never thought I would need. I stayed up past 2 a.m., exhausted but buzzing in a way I had not felt in years. The next morning, I walked down to the local cafe for some real coffee, an indulgence I had not allowed myself in months. That is when I saw her, Angela, one of the senior analysts from my old office. She was in line, scrolling on her phone, wearing the exact kind of expression I used to see in the mirror during my corporate days, tired, half hollow, glued together with caffeine and deadlines. She looked up and blinked. "Oh, wow. Hey, I did not even recognize you without the button down." I smiled and told her I was doing my own thing now. "Backpacks and outdoor gear," I said, keeping it simple. She gave the same look they all did. That polite nod, the half smile. "Oh, cool. That's brave." Brave. We chatted briefly. She asked if I was looking for work. Said things at the office had changed, more room for growth now. I told her I was good, really good. And then something strange happened. The guy behind her, mid-30s, baseball cap, trail beard, tapped my shoulder. "Sorry," he said, holding up his phone. "Are you the guy who makes quiet peak bags?" I blinked. Yeah." He grinned. "Man, I have been trying to get one for weeks. My buddy swears by yours. Said you used to sew them yourself." "I still do," I said, a little stunned. Angela watched the whole exchange like she was trying to decode it. Like the math was not adding up. Because I was not supposed to be known, or recognized, or relevant. I was supposed to be the guy who used to have a career. Instead, I left the cafe with 2 new orders scribbled in a notebook and a smile I did not bother hiding. But even then, I never posted about it. Never shared it with anyone from the past. Because the real victory? It was coming next. And it would not involve proving anything to anyone. A week later, I got invited to a reunion. Not high school, worse. A reunion dinner for the old department at the firm. Some big retirement thing for one of the VPs. Everyone was invited. Even the ones who had moved on, like me. I almost deleted the email. But something stopped me. Not curiosity. Not revenge. Just this strange, quiet urge to walk through the fire and feel nothing. So I went. I did not wear a suit. Just jeans, boots, a flannel with a little oil stain on the cuff. I did not apologize for it. I walked into that upscale banquet room like I belonged there, even though every other guy had a blazer on and every woman wore glassy-eyed ambition. The greetings were stiff, forced, a few double takes, a few whispers I definitely heard. One guy I used to share a cubicle wall with actually said, "I thought you were, like, off the grid now." I shrugged. "I make gear. Quiet Peak. Maybe you've heard of it." He had not. Most of them had not. But that was fine. What got me was how many of them acted like I was something to be pitted. "You'll find your way back. You're still young. It's not too late." It's hard, right? Trying to make it out there alone. They meant well, I think. But every sentence dripped with projection. They saw me with no title, no team, no calendar full of back-to-back meetings, and they thought that meant I was drifting. They could not see that I was rooted for the first time in years. At one point, Jake showed up again, same smug grin, different cologne. He gave me a nod like we were war buddies. I gave him nothing. When dessert came, someone asked me if I ever missed it. The suits, the salary, the structure. I took a sip of water, looked around the room at all the drawn faces and fading eyes, and said, "No." Simple, honest, no edge to it. They all went quiet. But I saw it then. Not anger, not judgment, envy. They did not want my business. They wanted my mornings, my time, my pace. The ability to walk away and not look back. They wanted the feeling of building something that was theirs and only theirs. But they were not willing to give up the illusion of success to get it. And that was the difference. Later that night, I left early, slipped out before the speeches, walked past the valet line and got on my bike instead. The air was cool, clean. I rode slow. Back home, my little workshop light was still on. Inside, a half-sewn day pack waited on the table. Beside it, a notebook with tomorrow's orders and a list of new ideas. I stood there, just looking at it all, and I felt something I never felt in 10 years at that job. Peace. But there was still one more thing left to say. It happened the following morning. I was sitting on the floor with my coffee, sketching a new modular strap system, when my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Hey, it's Jordan. From marketing. We met at the reunion last night." I remembered him. Nice enough guy. Used to lead some of our client pitch meetings. Always polite, never fake. His message continued. "I've been thinking about what you said. About not missing it. I'm burned out, man. Completely. My wife and I talk about quitting, moving somewhere small. I follow your site. I never knew that was you. Quiet Peak is everywhere in my hiking group. I just wanted to say respect for actually doing it." I stared at that screen for a long time. Because that right there, that was the difference. He had never asked about numbers, or profits, or if I was back on track. He saw the real thing, that I had stepped away not to escape, but to build. Not to hide, but to live differently. What none of them ever understood, what Jake, Angela, even Emily missed, was that I did not quit because I failed. I left because I was tired of living someone else's version of success. Tired of being validated by performance reviews, titles, and whether or not I had a corner office with a view of someone else's life. I gave all that up for something quieter, something slower. Freedom. It does not always look like success. It does not sparkle in an Instagram post or get celebrated at reunions. It looks like worn hands and slow mornings. Like shipping a backpack at midnight. Like turning down easy money because it comes with invisible chains. It looks like knowing who you are when no one is watching. But here's the twist. The real one. I was making more than I did at the firm. Not by much. Not yet, but enough. Enough to live. Enough to breathe. Enough to turn down a job offer with a smirk and sleep like a rock that same night. I never told them. Never posted some "look at me now" thread. Never tried to correct their assumptions. Because the biggest win is not needing to explain yourself. Sometimes, I still pass by my old office building. The parking garage. The glass doors. The dull gray sign with the company logo etched into metal like it meant something permanent. People rush in and out with coffee cups and keycards, checking their phones, fixing their ties. I watch them from across the street, leaning on my bike, hands tucked in my hoodie. No one notices me, and I prefer it that way. I think about who I used to be. The guy who measured his worth by how fast his inbox filled up. The one who stayed late hoping it would mean something. The one who dreamed in PowerPoint slides and lived for compliments from people he did not even like. I do not hate him. He got me here. But I do not miss him either. Because this life I built, it is not loud. It is not shiny. But it is mine. I make things with my hands. I ship them out in recycled boxes with my own handwriting on the label. I answer every customer message myself. I go for hikes on Wednesdays if I feel like it. I work weekends sometimes, but only because I choose to. I still eat rice and eggs more often than I probably should. I still live in the studio above the mechanic shop. I still cannot afford a team or a marketing agency or a day off without thinking about what I am losing. But I sleep like a baby. And that, more than any six-figure salary, feels like success. People still look at me and see someone who walked away. And they are right. I walked away from performance reviews. From fake laughs at forced happy hours. From counting down to the weekend like life only happens 2 days a week. I walked away from applause I had to beg for and into a life that does not need it. And you know what I realized? Freedom is quiet. It does not announce itself with fanfare or hashtags. It just is. And the moment you stop needing to explain your choices to people who never understood your values in the first place, that is when you know you are finally free.